Hi, I'm Lou Ann Hunt, and this is your June edition of Lynchburg 360. Lots of us have fond memories of attending summer camp when we were young. From swimming to archery to arts and crafts, it was a magical time to be a kid. These days, there are plenty of great summer camps to choose from all around Central Virginia. Steve Smallshaw takes us to one where the campers get to experience some things that are a little bit different.
Camp Kum-Ba-Yah started in 1950 through the vision and the ministry of the Cosby brothers, primarily Bev Cosby. They saw the real need for a place for children to be outdoors and to nature. This was around 1950, and really saw the value of making that connection of nature and children and outdoors and adult relationships. And so you can hear in the back children in the creek and enjoying the wonders of nature.
And they're just part of the generations that have come here over the years.
Absolutely. If you think 65 years is a pretty long time, and camp has probably never been any better, because we're realizing the value and importance of children being, if you will, disconnected or unplugged from the world that they live in to a place that really gives them imagination and curiosity and play and acceptance. I think you could really call this an urban forest, and again, where we're located in the trails and the way it's really laid out, it's an ideal setting especially for young children and all children to embrace and engage and to explore. Well, behind us, as you see, there's a nature camp going on, and so we've really gone, if you will, year-round. We see ourselves more as a outdoor teaching, learning community, and so we have partnerships with the Lynchburg City Schools, as well as with preschools and other county schools. So during the fall session and winter and spring, we typically can do a half a day of nature camp with the students, and they come in and they learn about water conservation and ecology and just to explore and to learn, and hopefully they can tie it into what they're studying in the classroom. But what we have here during the summer is about 8 weeks of summer camp, and it is probably the best week or best 2 weeks a child can have, mainly because it's small groups. It's 10 campers per campsite. We have 2 counselors and a CIT, so that's part of the secret of our success, is that small child-adult ratio. Because it's all about relationships, a relationship to nature, relationship with the staff. But with that, we offer obviously swimming. All the campers get swimming lessons. They get archery. They get zip line. We've got now we have a zip line at the lake for 4-year-olds and up, and then we have a larger zip line, which is for 9 and up. It's a climbing wall, climbing tower, a zip line, a leap for life. It's called our challenge course. So depending on if you're a junior camper or senior camper, really kind of models where they are developmentally. And then we have the arts and crafts. We have, I showed you earlier, our teaching demonstration garden. So we're really about teaching children where food comes from and how to grow food, and how to have your own, if you will, backyard or patio garden. But we really see the value and the importance of food, and food as being nourishment and not consumption. So 3 years ago we went vegetarian, and the unique feature about Camp Kum-Ba-Yah, we've done it for 65 years, campers collect the wood, they build a fire, and they make their meals, and they make their lunches, and everybody participates, from carrying the water to cleaning, and it truly is a community experience.
So there's a lot of traditional activities mixed in, but really what you offer that maybe other camps don't is like the focus on the green and sustainability and that sort of thing, things that kids probably aren't going to get anywhere else, really.
Yes, and it's all about it's challenge by choice. Yeah. So if it's fishing, if it's canoeing, if it's kayaking, if it's zip line, most of the campers like to enjoy that. But if it is say a leap for life, the camper's not required to jump off a 35-foot stand. But what we have here is that it's non-competitive. It's really about supporting each other and working together in terms of the overall good. But the most important rule is to have fun. You come home and you've probably never been as dirty as you ever been when you leave Camp Kum-Ba-Yah, because you can see they're in the creeks, they're in the woods, they're exploring, and it's very, very special.
That's the way it should be too.
Absolutely. Yeah. They can find their authentic sound, voice. You can be loud, you can play, and absolutely, it's a time to really let that other stuff go, engage, find your child in you, and be a child, and to learn, explore, and have great memories. Okay. We're still taking registration. Several of our sessions are full, but we do have room for some other sessions, and it's our Camp Jumpstart starts June 13th. That's already full. It's a smaller camp, but full camp starts June 20th. So we do have certain sessions that are open. We have some specialty camps. We have partnerships with Camp Sacagawea. So we do an overnight camp called Camp Discovery, where they go up there and they spend the night and come here during the day. We also have Camp Expedition, where we take them up on the Appalachian Trail. They learn a lot about the surrounding area here, and what to do when you're on the trail, how to backpack, how to plan. We have the AT Club that comes in. We also have a fellow named Eric Callahan, who's world known for his work and flint knapping and primitive pottery. And so we try to give children or campers experiences that typically they wouldn't have. But it's all, again, nature-based and outdoor-based. So we blend it in with, if it's lessons at the lake, if it's tree identification, it's somewhere it's educational based, but also we try to tie in some fun, such as a zip line and some other activities. But when I meant that we're going year round, we're also moving into what they call outdoor play space, and that is pretty much of a movement that's happening outside the U.S., but the United States is picking it up, and that is they're understanding the value of preschoolers being in nature, and so we're this fall we'll be exploring the development of an outdoor play space for campers or children 7 and younger. Very excited about that project as well. The classroom is nature, and you let children explore and play, and you guide them a little bit, but you let them come up with their creation and with their work.
It's one thing for kids to, read about leaves and trees and frogs in a book, but quite another to actually come out here and do hands-on thing.
Absolutely. I mean, to watch them and to see them when they're in the creek and they open a rock and then they see what's inside or down below. So again, it's those type of experiences that we want to make sure. I guess the promise that the Cosby had 65 years ago, that promise continues. That we campership or scholarship about 45-50% of our campers. The Cosbys made a promise when we first started that any child that wants to come to camp here will come to camp, no matter financial circumstances. And we've been able to keep that promise as well.
Stained glass making is a skilled craft that dates back many centuries. Jack Glenn from JEG Stained Glass is keeping the art form alive right here in the Hill City. Let's watch as Jack demonstrates how glass items are made and shows us some of his custom designs.
Oh, we're sitting in the my official studio of JEG Stained Glass, located at 1216 Main Street on the 3rd floor of the Bailey Spencer Hardware Store building. Been here at this location since '97. I make custom leaded glass windows, lampshades. I don't do a lot of church windows. I do more commercial and residential. It actually started off as a part-time job after school. I was about 14. I had a bunch of shop classes in high school, you know, late grade school and early high school, and I thought that I knew how to solder. And I had a friend, and he got a job sweeping the floor at this factory, and he thought because I was so handy that I could probably work there. So I lied about my age. I went into the shop, and they showed me what to do and demonstrated what to do, and I made a few pieces and stacked them up, and they came back a few hours later, and they looked at them, and they took one off the pile, and they said, we can use this one and take the other ones apart and do them over. So it started off like that. You know, I got to discover what I could do with glass, build things, like to work with my hands, and as time went on, I got to develop my own style. I learned how to make lampshades first, as opposed to making windows. A lot of people get into it today as a hobby and build their skills accordingly, depending on how much they challenge themselves. But it's, you know, it's in my blood. I love doing it. Keeps me busy, keeps me off the street. It helps to satisfy my creative urges from time to time. I like to create things. I would like to think that I thrive on challenges. Stained glass is music for the eyes, as opposed to music being music for the ears. It's pleasing. It doesn't fade, chip, crack, or peel if it's the real thing like I make. I'm cutting a strip of glass that I'm going to cut into pieces to make a star with. First I have to measure, allowing a 1/16 of an inch for the head of the glass cutter. And you notice I'm using a ruler because I want a somewhat straight edge on it. When we score with the cutter, it makes that little sound. What it actually does is it excites the molecules along the score line. Just that little tiny wheel, can you see that? It's not the sharpness of the blade that makes the cut, it's the excitation of the molecules along the score line. We're scoring the surface of the glass itself, which has a surface tension set up by the way it's cooled and annealed over time. And it does that. If you can get a close-up of the top edge, you can see where it's kind of cupped. Looks like little chips. And that's what the glass cutter does to the surface of the glass, and that's what makes it work. We cut a lot of the pieces that we used to make the lampshades on boards like this, different configurations, of course, but I had to learn how to make boards like this to cut pyramidal shapes that we put together and make pyramidal looking lampshades. And I can break it like this. This is a jig that I also made to cut the other side of to achieve this shape. So first I have to do these 2 points, and then I can take this. Okay. Right. And it makes it almost, not quite. One of the things I've had to look at and keep in mind is that the glass cutter is human powered. The jig is handmade, so sometimes they don't always quite match up perfectly. Okay. And that's almost a star. The next step these are going to be copper foiled to assembly to hold these together. Now we have to get the sharp edges off. See that? So this little machine will take off the sharp edge, clean up the corners, and make it safer to handle so that I don't cut myself like I did there. So the next step after this is we're going to copper foil these. These machines, the copper foil comes in a roll, and what the machine does is it centers the glass on the copper foil, theoretically, so that I can do this. Then I've got it to stick. I have to kind of pet it a little bit. Then I have to fold the glass over both sides. This is where fingernails really come in handy. The next step is to mash the corners. This is what I do. Some folks don't necessarily do this. But then we burnish, which is actually rubbing the glass with a flat piece of plastic or wood to smooth out the wrinkles. Make sure it's got a good bond all the way around. Okay. Then we'll repeat the process on all 5 of these. Okay. So now we have the 5 pieces, all copper foiled. The next step is to put them together. Okay. I made this little jig to hold the pieces in place while I'm tacking them together with the soldering iron, the solder, and the flux. The flux we use is a mild acid, which helps to make the solder stick to the copper. Without flux, it doesn't really adhere or flow. See, this is unfluxed. It doesn't really stick to it. We put a little flux on, and it makes the solder flow better and stick better. Right. Next step, have to solder the other side. I'm doing this just to put a little bead, a little solder on the loop, and then we're going to have our trusty assistant put a patina on it. Okay, I'm going to be the trusty assistant, which is a chemical reaction. Left to its own, it would tarnish. And turn pewter colored. And once it turns pewter colored, there's really no way to clean it. So what I like to do is I like to put a patina, which is kind of jump-starting the aging process for it. This is a chemical reaction with the metal, and voila. Then we're going to give it a quick wash. I do mix my own up, but that's a whole messy process. We can clean it off with plain old glass cleaner. And there we go. See? Okay, now that wire process is the same thing we use if we made some of these to kind of tie in with my assistant's grandson is autistic. So we made these. We are selling these for $35 each, and 10% of that goes to the Autistic Speaks Foundation. Same thing. Now this is what the copper looks like after it gets old. See? I like the old penny look. If you do get into it as a hobby or to try it, the rec department's a good choice. We do sell supplies. We give some advice if we can, pointers, how-tos. I always encourage the students to make a lot of little things and be careful, you know. It can be so overwhelming making a large piece like this for your first project that I've heard too many people say, I took a class and I made a project, made my front door, and I'll never do stained glass again because they started with too large of a project. I say, make a lot of little things. Make little ornaments like the star. Make things like that size. Make a few of them. Make a half a dozen of them. Even if you don't like how they turn out, you can always give them to somebody you don't like, you know. And they usually, you know, and a lot of things, you know, don't try to get it perfect the first time because you're just learning.
We'll hear more from Jack Glenn on next month's show as well. Just because school is out, that doesn't mean learning has to stop. In fact, learning can be done in many different ways, from the classroom to online training and everything in between. Now there's a new business in Lynchburg that offers a year-round educational experience, one that's focused on the individual.
Brain Raves is all the rave. Brain Raves is a private practice educational facility. We custom design acceleration plans for every learner. The idea is actually amazing. It's something that I always knew I would do. I am prior service. I was a medical specialist in the United States Army, and I taught for many, many years. And when I combined the two, medicine and education, it just made sense. I studied the brain intensively in my PhD program, and I brought these two things together, and it was necessary because much of what's taught in a traditional school setting is very left brain related. And what Brain Raves does is it brings in more of a creative, constructive approach to the educational experience. The learner chooses what to learn. The wonderful part about that is they get multiple experiences with different types of mediums, whether it's art or jewelry making or something more physical like yoga. The learner is on a journey, and that's the whole point of what we do here. The learner is in full control of where their learning journey is taking them. I've not had a learner yet come in and not be excited about something that they've wanted to learn, but restricted in some way or another from learning that. Dual enrollment is what our focus is. So right now we enroll students from many different types of demographics, whether that's different school types, home schools, public schools, private schools, yes, online schools, and even distance education at this point. And we serve learners that are ages 4 to 16. And whether you're traveling to India or Spain and you want to continue the services that you receive at Brain Raves, that's also doable. So we're totally taking the limits off of education. This is our Discovery Lab. It's our computer lab. We are fully functional with all touchscreen devices and iPads as well. Every TV is an Apple TV. As you can see, our students also learn how to work the network. If they want to send me a digital file, they can send it to the Apple TV in my office, and I'm always taking care to make sure that learners are on task, but that's usually not a problem. If you love what you learn, then you love to learn. There's no need to motivate. The motivation is already there. This room is the Ford Literacy Lab. It's actually a room that can transform into anything we want it to transform into. One thing that we like to use this room for is yoga. And breathing exercises. So stretch and flexibility and the breath is a very important part of the learning process. So there's no more sit down, fold your hands, wait for bells to ring. It's another option. It's really a no-brainer. Choice just works. This is a section of our wall of support. We now have more than 200 people who have signed our petition and said this is something that's needed and something that's necessary for Lynchburg. They get it. It's a no-brainer. We need more choices. Well, years ago, I received an award from WRBL TV3 in another city, and they said that my teaching was amazing. But the thing about it is, after I received that award, and in that same year, an award for being a Teacher of the Year, I looked to my left and my right and I said, wow, there are so many great teachers, and this honor could have been bestowed upon any of them. But at the same time, I was humble enough to say, okay, there is something that I'm doing different here. And people wanted to know what, because I had very high levels of success in my classroom. So I began a journey to find out how to plant a school, how to create a school. I'm working out of both of my hemispheres. There's a left hemisphere approach to this with the logic, the language, the writing, and then the creative piece has to come in. The right hemisphere is where we create from predominantly. Everyone's whole brained. Let's clear that myth up first of all. But children especially need the opportunity to create. Having the opportunity to create and to create what you want to create is divine. It's freedom. The three areas that we approach are as far as Brain Raves is concerned, is academic coaching, brain science, becoming that neuroscience, the beginning of understanding yourself, and then inspiration. I don't motivate my learners. I just know that the learning journey should be a happy one. And once you cover that piece, and also take care of the social and the emotional and the biological needs of students, the teaching is so easy. The learning is so unchallenging, and that is beauty. It's a no-brainer. Brain Raves just works, and there's always something to rave about. This is a new season for the educator. This is a season of autonomy. The opportunity for teachers to have more control over where their career leads. This is a private practice approach that complements every other school approach. This is a small batches approach. Public school, private schools, online schools, they are big batch approaches. The small batch approach makes sure that the learner leaves with plenty to rave about, because they rave about their learning, and that's important. Small batches, private practice, this is the season of the educator.
That's it for this edition of Lynchburg 360. Now that summer is here, don't forget to take some time to kick back, relax, and enjoy the view.